starts by showing us a remote village in the mountains, where a woman is giving birth to twins. The old woman helping her asks her not to give birth yet because it's almost dawn. The other woman assisting her tells the granny that she can't ask for something like that, but the old woman insists, saying that she has to do it, even if it's impossible. After all, these children will be the ones who command the demons. Later that day, a man sees the twin siblings and realizes that the children who sunder day and night have been born. 16 years later, one of these children, Yuru, is now in the woods, hunting a pheasant with his bow. The arrow lodges in the bird's neck, and just when Yuru approaches the pheasant to pick it up, he sees a condensation trail in the sky. He doesn't give it much importance, and just says that it's a beautiful dragon's fart. Yuru hops onto his horse to return to the village, where his friend Danji is already waiting for him. Danji is happy to see him, but he also scolds him for going hunting alone again without telling him. Yuru apologizes, and Danji asks him what he'd do if something happens to him all alone in the mountains, since he can't just call for help. Despite this, Yuru dismisses his concern and reminds him that if something happens, then the divine guardians right and left will protect him. Danji completely leaves the subject aside when he notices that Yuru caught a pheasant. He gets really excited and says that they can have grilled bird, but Yuru tells him that a hot pot is better because it's more satisfying. The other villagers welcome Yuru back, and he casually mentions that the weather looks like it's going to get bad. The man wonders if they're going to finally get some rain, since it's been a while, and Yuru tells him that he'll be back to help them with work later. After a while, he meets with the two women who assisted his mother when he and his sister were born. The old woman, Yamaha, welcomes him back, and Danji's mother scolds her son, saying that he should come and help him. However, as soon as he sees his mother, Danji runs away, so his mother complains and tells him that he should learn to be a hard worker like Yuru. Yuru asks the granny for his sister, Asa, and the old woman tells him that she's doing good, doing her duty properly as always. He decides to go where his sister is anyway to check on her, and Asa kindly welcomes him back with a smile, even though she's behind a cell for some reason. Yuru smiles back at her and tells her that he caught a pheasant today, though he doesn't really think that he's amazing at all, like she says. After all, he actually wanted to catch a boar or a deer because there hasn't been much rain this year, and he's worried about the harvest. There might be less food this winter, so he has to hunt more and make dried or salted meat. Asa asks him if the adults of the village will leave for the outside world to find work. Yuru tells her that something like that is possible, and she then asks him if he will go too. He immediately denies it and asks her why she thinks he trained himself to hunt. Yuru explains that if he becomes indispensable to the village for hunting, then he won't need to leave. Still, Asa asks the same question again, wanting to know if he won't leave like their parents did. Yuru asks her not to worry and assures her that he will never leave this village because as long as she's here, he will always be with her to protect her. Asa finally smiles, feeling much better now, and that's when Danji's mother enters the room to inform Yuru that Dara is here. Outside, a lot of people gather around Dara, who brought things from the people who went to the outside world to the village. He mentions that the economy is pretty bad out there and there is a pandemic as well, which is why he wants to trade with some herbs today. Some villagers trade their herbs for salt or some vegetable seeds that can grow in drought. A woman approaches Dara and mentions that her daughter will soon be 7, so he tells her that he'll bring a witch doctor next time in that case. An old woman tells him that she got some bad headaches lately, so Dara gives her the usual painkillers. When he sees Yuru, he asks him if there is anything he wants, but before he can even answer, Dara throws a beautiful tamari ball at him, knowing that Yuru would only want a souvenir for Asa. Yuru doesn't deny it and thanks him, and after Dara leaves, Danji mentions that he wants to leave this village too. Yuru just asks him if the world out there is really that great, and Danji reminds him that the people who left rarely return, so the outside world must be a pretty good place. Yuru tells him that he wouldn't be so sure about that, and mentions that he wouldn't mind living in this village his whole life. Danji knows that he's only saying that because he's got a cute little sister to protect, but he tells him that they should leave this place together in that case. He also mentions that if he's uneasy about it, then he could go with them, though Yuru clarifies that hanging around him would only corrupt Asa. Danji gets offended by the comment, but Yuru reminds him that Asa's got a really important job to perform. Despite this, Danji tells him that he's never met Asa in the first place, and Yuru explains that only certain people are allowed to see her, so an oaf like him will never meet her. Before they can continue with their usual bantering, Yuru sees what he thinks are perfect trails of dragon gas. However, this time, it's not the usual roar, since he's heard this a few times while hunting deep in the mountains, but it's kind of loud now. Danji asks him if he's ever seen a dragon before, but Yuru admits that he's never seen one. Before they know it, the sound of an explosion is heard, and what looked like a normal, deserted mountain before shows the outside world that there's a village hidden there. Both Yuru and Danji soon realize that what they thought was a trail of dragon gas is actually not being produced by a dragon, but a plane. Of course, they don't have the slightest idea of what that is, and soon, a helicopter also appears. All the villagers stare at the sky in awe, having no idea what's going on, and before they know it, they start getting killed, one by one. Yamaha sees everything and realizes that the barrier has been broken, and even though she doesn't know how, she knows that they're here for Yuru. She warns some villagers that they have to find Yuru and hide him right away, so she asks them to bring him to her. Danji starts panicking when he realizes everyone's dead, but Yuru inspects the bodies and starts running, asking him to stay close. Danji quickly runs after him and just hopes that his mother is alive alive. After running for a while, they come across two armed men wearing military uniforms. As soon as they see Yuru, one of them immediately informs his squad that they've found him. Yuru doesn't waste any time and uses his bow to shoot an arrow to each one of them before they can attack. Danji is almost shot by one of them, and even though they don't know what those weapons are, it's clear that it seems lethal. That's why Yuru quickly approaches the men to knock them out and continues running. Danji sees two helicopters and says that those dragons are near the outer area, but Yuru tells him that he doesn't think they can beat them, and he doesn't even know if those things are dragons. After a while running, the two of them reach the divine guardian statues, and Danji mentions that his mother is probably working at the keep like usual. Yuru approaches one of the statues and asks him to help him move some rocks out of the way. Soon, he manages to open a hidden door and explains that it's a shortcut to the keep. Danji had no idea there was such a thing, so Yuru reminds him that he said that the divine guardians right and left will protect them. They immediately take the shortcut, and Yuru just hopes that Asa is alright. In the meantime, a girl with a red jacket named Gabby approaches the remaining villagers outside and greets them with a smile. Everyone just stares at her, clearly scared and confused. But before they can do anything, Gabby just says one word, and one of the villagers' bodies is completely torn apart in a second. She repeats the same word several times, easily creating a sea of blood and body parts in the village by only saying the word gobble. Everything happens too fast, but the woman from before tries to run away with her daughter. However, Gabby easily kills her, ripping the head off her body after repeating the same word. The little girl stares at her mother's lifeless body in horror, trying to process what just happened. Gabby then approaches her with a smile and clarifies that she doesn't bite kids. A man who lost both his hands tries to escape the place, but Gabby kills him before he can get away, and his blood splatters around, traumatizing the poor little girl even more. Unable to bear all of this, the little girl passes out, and Gabby nonchalantly makes a call to inform her squad that the outer and middle areas are mostly secure, so they can send the ground forces up here. For some reason, she gets no response from the ground forces, and that's when we see that Dara took care of them himself. He's apparently not surprised about the situation and just wonders what he's going to do about this since the barrier has been broken. Dara decides to make a call, and when he sees that it actually got through, he realizes that the situation is truly bad. He talks to a woman named Hana on the phone and asks her if she can see smoke from where she is. After getting her answer, he then asks her if they can change the rendezvous point because he thinks that Asa is here. In another scene, we see a woman dragging Yamaha's body to Asa's cell, and with no hesitation, she raises her fist to make the cell explode. The force of the explosion impacts directly on Asa's head, and Yuru arrives just in time to see his sister laying on the floor, motionless. He calls for her name in panic, and just then, the woman replies, calling him her brother and saying that it's her. She kindly explains that she's come to get him, but also to kill everyone else. Yuru is obviously confused, so he asks her what she's talking about because he doesn't understand anything, but there is no way that she's his sister. He immediately gets defensive and raises his bow to shoot her with an arrow, but the woman quickly dodges and counterattacks with another huge explosion. Meanwhile, Dara hides in the woods and sees the helicopters, noticing that they disguise themselves as mountain rescue choppers. He uses a gun to kill some of the enemies nearby, but he keeps an eye on the helicopters because he can't have them following him from above while he makes his escape. After a while advancing through the village, he comes across Gabby and sees the monster with her. Dara mentions that it has really beautiful teeth and then immediately points at it with his gun. Gabby realizes that he can actually see it, unlike others, and she quickly tries to attack him. Dara dodges the monster and tries to shoot Gabby, but she uses the monster to shield herself. The bullets are stopped by the monster's teeth, so Dara mentions that they have impressive enamel too. Gabby ignores his comment and just asks him if he killed the ground forces, but Dara takes her off guard by throwing a grenade at her. Back to Yuru, he ends up lying on top of some debris after the explosion, so the woman apologizes, saying that she only meant to break his arrow, but she's not used to this yet. When Yuru tries to stand, the tamari ball he was saving for his sister falls and rolls until it ends up in front of her hand. Just then, Yamaha opens her eyes, and she sees the moment Asa's blood transforms into some kind of creature that takes a hold of the woman's arm. Yamaha immediately reacts and asks Dara to take Yuru and run. Before Yuru can react, Dara jumps into the building and grabs him, running away without giving him any explanations. Yamaha tells him that they have to hide in the world below, and he must not let them find them. Dara follows her instructions, and in the meantime, Danji finds his mother, clearly hurt, but alive at least. While he checks on her, he sees Yuru being taken away and just panics, having no idea what's going on. The helicopters are still surrounding the village, so Dara takes the shortcut from before, and after a while, he and Yuru come out of the divine guardian statues. He tells him that they're heading down the mountain now, but Yuru is still in shock from everything that's happened. He's having a hard time trying to process the situation, so Dara tries to drag him with him. However, he almost gets shot by one of the helicopters, so he immediately hides behind the statue again. Dara realizes that they missed their chance to escape, so he tries to shoot the helicopters with his gun. This obviously doesn't work, and the men on the helicopters are using high-caliber weapons, so they're clearly at disadvantage here. Dara mentions that if those dentures come back, they'll be flanked for sure, so the situation couldn't be any worse. While he tries to think about what to do, Yuru is still in a state of shock, saying that Asa is dead. He starts questioning himself because of what he saw back there though, since he thinks he saw her move, but he's not sure. Yuru realizes that he left his granny behind too, and he starts wondering who that woman was because she claimed to be his sister, but also said that she'd kill everyone, even though nobody's done anything wrong. Dara can see his inner turmoil, but the helicopters are still attacking, so he tells him that he doesn't have time to explain right now. Without wasting any more time, Dara gives Yuru a green pendant and asks him to use the left and right. Yuru has no idea what he means, so Dara explains that there is a hole in the flagstones between the left and right divine guardian statues, so he must stick the pendant in there. Yuru is still completely clueless, so he gets a little frustrated and says that he doesn't understand. Dara gets equally frustrated and tells him that it's a gift from him, so he just has to do it. Yuru doesn't know what's going on, but he grabs the pendant either way and heads to the flagstones between the left and right divine guardian statues, complaining about the fact that no one will explain anything to him today. He sees the hole Dara was talking about and immediately complains, saying that it is plugged with junk. Dara yells at him and simply asks him to dig it out in that case, because they don't have any time. The men on the helicopters see Yuru, so they order the others to capture him and eliminate the other villagers. Yuru quickly digs the junk out of the hole and Dara complains, saying that they should keep their place clean. After a few seconds, Yuru finally manages to get the pendant inside the hole, so Dara immediately grabs his head and smashes it against the flagstones with force. Yuru obviously complains and asks him what that was, but when his blood makes contact with the pendant, the right and left divine guardian statues start glowing brightly. Everything turns white for a second, leaving the men on the helicopters confused. Before they know it, the helicopters are shaken and destroyed by something they can't even see. Yuru sees golden creatures holding onto the helicopters and tearing them to pieces with wild strength, but he doesn't know what's going on himself. When the golden creatures harshly bite onto the rotor blades, the helicopters finally start falling. Dara immediately runs away with Yuru before they're crushed, and Gabby sees everything from afar and screams, saying that those helicopters were her ride home. That's the only thing she cares about though, because walking down this mountain is going to be awful for sure. She wonders whose demons those were and hopes that they're weak at least. When Yuru finally recovers after the blast, he hears another man speaking, saying that their new master apparently is a child, so he will be easy to control. The woman next to him reminds him that his age doesn't matter because they must obey their master. Yuru stares at them in shock, and he soon realizes that they are in fact the right and left guardians. Dara explains that there isn't a single name for them since everyone calls them something different, whether it's ghosts, spirits, monsters, cryptids, aberrations, or pairs. Whatever their names truly are, Dara lets Yuru know that those two are his demons. In a change of scene, we see a fragment of the past when Yuru's father is showing him the passageway connecting the left and right to the keep. Yuru had no idea it existed, so his father explains that the Lord had this secret passageway made back when this village was a castle. He warns him that only a few people know about it, so he must not tell anyone about it, and he must use it only when he has to. When they get to the end of the passageway, Yuru's father tells him that the left and right bases at the village exit are above them. He also informs him that the left and right are always watching over him. Back to the present time, just as his father said, right and left let Yuru know that they've been watching him this whole time, and henceforth they are his demons. Yuru can only stare at them in disbelief, and Right decides to just tease him, saying that this crybaby is apparently their master. Left scolds him and warns him that he's upsetting their master, so he should stop teasing him like that. Right recognizes Dara as the demon retainer, and Left lets him know that they've been watching him too. Yuru is still too shocked to speak, and Right explains that they took down those birds since they seem to be harming him, but they don't know what they were. Dara informs them that they're vehicles of the modern world below, but he clarifies that they don't have to chat about anything now. He mentions that at least 2 threats have shown up, so he wants them to help them get down the mountain quickly and safely. Right and Left remind him that he is not their master, and they only obey Yuru's orders. Dara gets a little frustrated and clarifies that he already knows that, but there is no time to explain the situation to him. Just after he says that, Gabby shows up and mentions that those demons look strong, so she wants to know whose demons they are. Yuru asks what that tooth monster behind her is, but Dara just panics when he realizes that Gabby already caught up, and she's perfectly fine even after he hit her with a grenade. Gabby just calmly walks towards them and asks them not to underestimate her demon's toughness. She sees Yuru and mentions that he must be Ace's brother, since he's 16 years old. Yuru corrects her and clarifies that he's 17, but Dara explains that by traditional counting, the world below considers him 16. When Gabby mentions Asa, Yuru can't help but remember all the disaster that happened in the village, and when that woman told him that she'd kill everyone. He then asks her if they're the ones who killed the villagers, and Gabby admits it without hesitation. Right and Left remind him that he just has to give the word, and they'll do whatever he commands. Yuru tells them that he won't command them to do anything, because they're the village's guardian deities, so he wouldn't dare give them orders. However, he does mention that he has 2 requests, and clarifies that if there are any survivors in the village, he wants them to take them to a safe place. His second request is that the runt is his, so he doesn't want them to touch Gabby. Lastly, Yuru tells them that they can do as they please